Hello and welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm Rabyd, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. If you want to learn how to support our mission to normalize atheism and deconversion, you can stay tuned to the end of the video to learn more about how to do that. Today I'm beginning this series, Morality Without God, and today I just want to introduce the series, and I'm kind of titled this introduction Bon Voyage for reasons that we'll see in a little bit. But it happens quite often when people come to this channel and they are theists. The subject of morality, and sooner or later the questions around it come about it from the theist. How can you be moral without God? Or there will be the bold-faced accusation, atheists are immoral because they have no God. You can't be moral without a God. But you are stealing morality from X religion because it is actually God's idea of what morality is. The grounding of morality has to be a God. And on the list goes of the comments and questions and accusations. But the notion is clear that many people say that without God, people cannot be moral. The moment I became an atheist, this was also a personal challenge. What my morality was without the Christian God was something I had spent a year dealing with. But then the additional question of what morality was became more interesting without any God at all. I spent 2 years in the pulpit preaching mostly on moral questions from the Bible, all the while looking at my own personal ethics and morals, and what the basis for them was now. I was also at the time attending classes at Ferris State University and taking political science, and the questions of how people interact with each other and make decisions as a society were very much at the front of my mind. Social psychology and government became favorite topics, but all this was the addition of an introduction class to philosophy. In it, moral philosophy was part of the curriculum and one of the topics. I ate the whole thing up, and I was looking at the moral question with my religious blinders off for the first time. I realized one very important point. There were a lot of moral philosophical systems, and only a handful of them needed the existence of a deity. This is where the first accusation of you can't have morality with a God disappeared for me. Obviously, human beings can come up with moral systems without God being necessary. The question is not whether they can, it's whether or not they can be justified. One thing became certain for me at that moment. The apologist trope of you can't have morality without God became just a trope. It also became propaganda that wasn't true. You can come up with moral systems that do not involve a deity. A theist can question whether these moral systems work and have validity, but they cannot say you cannot come up with one. That's straight up false. I challenge theists at this point to drop the language that you cannot have a moral system without a God. You can. Now you can still question whether or not such systems work or have validity, but that means saying something more along the lines of, yes, there are moral systems that exist without a God, but I disagree with all of them. That's a more honest statement. But the statement of you can't have a moral system without a God is simply false. There are many. You can disagree with them, but you can't say or insinuate that they don't exist. You need to really stop lying about this, especially to yourself. For those of you deconverting from religion and wondering at this question of morality, this series is for you. It also doesn't have anything close to a complete outline at this point, but everything in it I want to point back to the idea of deconversion journey. I've been on this journey myself for almost a decade now, giving up my Christianity in 2015 and becoming an atheist in 2016. So for a while I have wrestled personally with the questions of human morality without God. In many ways this series is simply sharing what I have discovered along the way, but I also want it to be more as we go along. I want to state at this point that I'm no philosophical expert. I've had some formal training in philosophy in all my degrees, but I have no degree in philosophy itself. In both my bachelor's degree, Introduction to Philosophy was part of the general ed curriculum, and in the case of my biblical studies degree, philosophy is inherent to theology in many ways, although I would say now it is misused or only partially used. I had a few philosophical theology courses in seminary, and what this taught me is that philosophy and theology necessarily bump into each other, but not always. Underlying most of what I learned in my political science degree was a political philosophy which does engage moral questions as well as far as society. Mostly I have learned what I have learned in moral philosophy from my own part in deconverting. as part of the deconstruction and reconstruction processes. This series is going to start out in the territories I have discovered and understand and moved into places that I haven't gone yet. The series is as much pushing myself to discover more as I am trying to inform and educate as well. An analogy might be in order. Picture me as the captain of your ship in the moral philosophy ocean. And our journey at first will be in the waters we are familiar with and are charted in my captain's quarters. Some parts of my map are still fuzzy, but it's still charted waters. There is, however, an edge to the map where beyond I have not gone. It's time to set sail and discover what is beyond the edge of the map. But first, it will probably help to engage what we know so far. That way we will know how the uncharted will connect with what we already have. But it is very much time to explore beyond the edge of the map for me. This series is a large part is about me continuing my journey I'm already on, and what this journey is now and what it will be in the future. Well, we just don't know yet. What is your role in this journey in watching this series? Well, it really greatly depends on what you want to be. Your choice. Be a passenger and just enjoy the journey. You can also be part of the crew and comment as we travel along, helping us to decide the next direction in our journey and trying to figure out things. Maybe you will find that you have answers to questions that we ponder, or you'll have alternatives, and I would greatly appreciate them. That said, the first place we must sail through as we bid bon voyage and we bid a farewell to what we know is divine command theory. We need to justify why we can say without God, and why without God might actually be better. So for a bit we must sail through these waters, because the first thing we have to justify is why God isn't necessary to the moral question. We have to start by showing that this theory is worth rejecting, so we can actually sail on to see what is still out there without it. So we will start next week with dealing with the divine command theory and why we should reject it. Why it's time to leave the so-called safety of morality with God, to find new opportunities in places where morals are grounded in something more real than mythology. It's time to discover morality without God. But to do so, we need to recount why morality with God is actually a dangerous sea that denies us the right to truly find what morality is. That's it for this one. I am just trying to introduce the series. There's a lot of questions for me as well, put more simply and more off-the-cuff terms. I'm kind of continuing my own journey on discovering morality without God, and I'm going to, explore different topics, different philosophical systems, look at morality from a lot of different angles that I haven't done before, and you're welcome to come along and help. You can give comments and make suggestions of what needs to be next or whatever, but I haven't close-ended this series. It's a lot like my Arguments for and Against God series, where I've just kind of left them open in case I want to do another video. And this is going to be very, very similar. But for a while I want to stay on this journey of discovering, what is a good moral system without God. And of course, the theists are going to, along the way, constantly make us justify why we should do this and why their way is better. But at the same time, I think it's worth the discussion and worth moving on for. So welcome aboard, and let's see where our ship takes us. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate every like, share, and subscribe. There's a lot of ways to support this mission of normalizing atheism and deconversion to normalize them to a point where they're not looked down upon, where, I can see why people would deconvert, and I can see why people would become atheists, and it's perfectly reasonable to do so. Needs to be more the attitude of society, and that's what we're working towards. If you want to support that in a more tangible way, my PayPal link is in the description. There's also Super Chat, Super Thanks, which are always greatly appreciated. Always appreciate it when people directly donate to this channel. Thank you very much. But I think the best way to support the channel is become a citizen of the Rabyd Nation, to join us and become part of that citizenry, and then becoming a member of this channel, giving any of that monthly support that allows me to move forward, worrying less and less about the YouTube algorithm and more about what the content is going to be the most effective for those of you deconverting and for those of you wrestling with the question of God and wrestling with your own atheism in general. So thank you very much for that. And, I want to give a shout out to my citizens, to my Rabyd citizens, and to my Tribunes. Thank you very much. You are awesome. I appreciate every single one of you and your monthly support. It's truly humbling to me. So thank you very much. And as always, live your best life. You only get one go around and then it's over. So you want to take all your time, money, and opportunities and give them to yourself, to the people you love and care for, and to make this a better world. You'll be happier if you do. And don't waste it all on the trappings of religion and faith. That's a dead end. I speak from experience. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and I'll catch you next time.